Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded, and this will be part 12 of the Pentagram series, but it'll be a bit different because we'll be looking at Albrecht Dürer and the Pentagram. So this is famous Albrecht Dürer, 16th century, very mysterious, very influential, especially when it comes to geometry, but the whole Hermeticist, alchemist, esoteric world at the time, he was amongst the forefront of these people. Very, very important character. The amount of work he did even to do with perspective and light, he was embedded deeply in it. But what I want to focus on is, so here we see him hexagon. This was how he drew his 7-pointed star, the nonagon, and the 14-sided as well. But he also did a 11-sided other, but the polygons of Albrecht Dürer, you can look that up. There are a few PDFs available. But the pentagram design, or the pentagon as we see here now, if you just align the points together, you would get a pentagram. But that'll be the focus now. But what you can also see is, so if you see these circles here, what they're actually doing is creating a seed of life. So we have a hexagon leading to a pentagon. This 6/5 ratio, very important, it appears in a lot of places. So for instance, the Great Pyramid, if the height above ground is 5, then it's 6-5 hexagon, pentagon to the subterranean chamber. Now the bent pyramid is curious because there's different explanations why the angle change. Well, it just so happens that the angle change, if unfolded, creates a series of hexagons and pentagons, 6/5. The Old Kingdom cubit, 1 meter diameter. The seed of life divides that up into a hexagon, 6 points. So 1 is Egyptian royal cubit, that section of arc, and so we have this nice 6/5 ratio. So 6 is the total, and if 5, you get, well, so close to pi squared meters. So pi, the circumference, 6/5 pi squared meters. Now, Aldar HQ in the United Arab Emirates, it's the world's only round building in this sense. It's thin if you see the profile, but what they had to do was work out how much of this circle can we have, because a portion of it had to be buried. How much can we have above ground? What's the maximum strength angle? And so, as you can see, it's a hexagon, this design here, but the portion above ground is defined by a pentagram. So 6s and 5s in the modern structural sense as well, this very important ratio. Merkine pyramid, as it's called in Lithuania, and there you can see what is a series of hexagons. But to join these together, you need a pentagram. And for instance, there we see, because it's the perspective, because it's spherical, but what it is, all these equilateral triangles, 6 of them together make a hexagon, and there we see the pentagon to bring them all together. Now that's the same rule applies to soccer balls. The black is the pentagram, the white are the hexagons. To fold them all together, you actually need 32. This is the pattern to create a soccer ball. Now this also extends to chemistry, and so different molecules, the way they form, either as pentagrams and hexagons, is again one of these defining features of the macro and the micro and geometry. In the Kircher, for instance, we see his drawing here, Pythagorean triangles, magic square of 15, a nonagon as well, the ruler. But what we have here is, what's this character holding? It's a book open to a pentagram and a hexagram, 6s and 5s. This is a standard in Templars. So for instance, we see 6 and 5, and other Mason Oddfellow boards, 6 and 5 pointed stars. This is a church in Germany, I forget exactly where, 6s and 5s, pentagram and hexagram, or hexagon and pentagon. This is from Voortrekker Monument, and they've again overloaded with symbolism. The original Voortrekker design was so Egyptian that they had to tone it down because of the complaints, but there, yeah, in fold we see 6s and 5s embedded in the geometry there as well. Which brings us back to Durer, and just as an idea, where we complete the circle, add the rest of the circles, we create the seed of life, and we get this 6/5 design. Now, is this a regular pentagon? I used to believe it was so, and I still see it now in some other presentations even recently, using this to say that from the seed of life vesica you can get a perfect pentagon. Well, a perfect pentagon would have all these 5 proportions, and it would be 108 degrees. And so let's test this, and we can use GeoGebra to do that. And so we start with a circle, and we create now a vesica. We're going to get the circle on, okay, and get it to that point. And so what we have is the vesica Pisces. Now we'll make a point on the where they intersect. This is our GeoGebra, great program for testing this type of stuff. And now we can create a circle there, and we bring it back to B, cancel, back on the circle. Come on, what are you doing to me? No. So it keeps going off the circle. Let's try this one. Wouldn't you know, it's always, oh, that's no good. Oh, it's a little bit rustic with this. Now we'll create the point again. Circle. Bring that to B. Ah, come on, what are you doing to me? Okay, so there, now if you were to follow that around, but we're going to be using, so based on Durer's design there, so what we have is these 3 circles. And now with a line tool, there we now have the line through, and now we use the same just to create a point. We want the point right there on the line in the circle. Let's put some more points in there. We need there and there. Okay, now with the line tool, and so we add a few more points. So this would be one, and another one here, and so now we have the beginnings of that Durer's pentagram. See the lines there, the lines there. Now we just complete it off, and to finish that we go back to the circle tool, and we put it there, and then we can just get it to B, and that would be the last point. And now we can so A to B, B to H, H to J, J to I, and we complete it off there. So there we see his pentagram, and now we can test the angles. Oh, going in the wrong direction. .37. Complete that around. 107.04. 109.19. 107.04. Again, these are equal. And this will be 108.37. So these two are equal, and these two are equal, and we have the odd one out, which is 109.12. So what we have is that the pentagram of Durer is not a regular polygon. However, I believe that he's actually encoded a little trick in here. And one of the clues to that is, just like all the people of this period who were into their geometry, hermeticism, weights and measures, and the alchemists, notice his hands. So there we see anyway, 109.19, 109.2 degrees. This is the odd angle out of his pentagram. So could he draw a perfect pentagram? I'll put a link in the description, one way to draw it, where we have 108 degrees all the way around. They should be in a perfect pentagram. So was he incapable of drawing it? I don't believe so. Was he trying to fool people into drawing incorrectly? Partially, yes, but more often, more so, I believe he was passing something on, because these fellas were very smart, and in their margins of errors they would encode deeper levels of information. Famous alchemist Robert Flood, notice the hands again. They flash gang signs. That's what's going on. This is said to be a painting of Columbus. Same things going on. You will find this in kings and people connected to the Hermetic alchemical world, who were so important in defining weights and measures. They're doing these signs. Heinrich Kunrath, another one. Geometry in one hand, and he's flashing the sign in the other. Tetragrammaton as well. All the same symbols. These guys knew what they're doing. But what was he trying to pass on? So let's first look at Sun, Earth, and Moon. And a perfect pentagon, or a pentagram, is built around this angle of 108 degrees. So firstly, the moon, sun, moon and earth. If I multiply the diameter of the moon times 108, I get the distance from the moon to the earth. As a good rule of thumb, if I multiply the diameter of the sun times 108, I'll get the distance from the sun to the earth. And if I multiply the diameter of the earth by 108, I get the diameter of the sun. There's a nice system here. Now, it's a good rule of thumb. However, there is a better system. There is a better way to do it, and it actually encodes the knowledge which I believe Durer was encoding here inside his irregular pentagram. I believe he did it on purpose. I believe he was pointing to something, and that begins, so 108, we've got these rules going on here, but 109.19 or 109.2 into a single decimal. Now let's first begin. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but the moon is 400 times closer to the earth than the sun. That's what causes the eclipse. That's one of these beautiful harmonies in nature. Now what's also interesting is that the moon is 0.273 the size of the earth, or 27.3%. So 400 times 27.3% is 109.2. That's the first little connection to that angle. 109.19, or 1/100th of a degree from 109.2. 109.2 times the diameter of the moon is also the distance from the moon to the earth, because of the elliptical nature of things. 109.2 times the diameter of the sun is the distance from the sun to the earth. It's even more accurate than 108, and 109, so the earth is at a ratio of 1 to 109.2 the diameter of the sun. So the earth diameter times 109.2 equals the best current definition of the earth and the moon. 108 is a great rule of thumb, but this blends everything in together, including the synodic month. Synodic month, which determines the solar eclipse at this 400 to 400 ratio, but also the ratio of the moon to the earth, and those together brings us 109, and it just, well. Now it's also interesting to note, because of the connections between the second, the cubit, and the meter, as well as the foot, which is embedded in ancient sites, including the pyramid. Well, the equatorial circumference of the earth is 10,920.75 kilometers, 109.2. Now the mean circumference is 109.14, again 109.19. So what we have here is a nice system, and 108 is great. I love my harmonic numbers, but in terms of actual base, well, this is what works now at 27.273 in the pentagram, but all across the ancient world, in ancient units of measure, including in the Great Pyramid, it's 27.3 Doric fathom high, and well, you name it, you'll find 273 in there, and it's also embedded in the pentagram. But this ratio, sun, earth, and moon, distance and size, what do we get? We get a system that works, and it also blends over into the apparently modern metric system, which it connects the second, the cubit, the meter, the foot, Doric, Ionic scales, the long scale, the Persian foot, all blends in, sun, earth and moon. Anyway, Durer's pentagram, he was hiding a secret, I believe, and that is the margin of error contains information.